Steph, Rousey and Allen aren't playing tonight. Nate said, how much does that change kind of what you do, or is it just sort of you're going to do what you guys do regardless?
I mean, it changes things in terms of matchups and how we would defend certain lineups. Certainly changes a little bit in our plan of attack when they're going a little bit bigger. But, at the end of the day, I think for us, we've got to get ourselves back on track on the offensive end of the floor. And we have to make sure that high level of detail defensively, executing our schemes, making sure we're limiting them to the shots that we want them to take and finish in place.
You said offense has been a little bit of a concern the last maybe couple of weeks or at least 3 or 4 games. What is it the main things you've been pinpointing?
Well, I think a couple of things. One, our movement. We're getting stagnant. We're holding the ball too long. We're not getting to the next action. We're a different team than we were a year ago in terms of how we space the floor. So we've got to force rotations in other ways. We've got to attack closeouts. We got to get the ball to the second and third side to get us some high percentage looks. And oftentimes it's getting stuck in one person's hands for 5-6 seconds, and we're losing our advantage. So, finding ways for us to continue to get the ball moving, to force rotations, to step up with confidence and knock down open looks.
Previously, Coach, you went 7-4 this last month, for the month of June. Piggybacking off of what Michael said, were there any key takeaways that you took from, moments where you thought we could have done this better to be more proficient in what we're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think every game there are those moments. Certainly, we had a little bit of slippage on the defensive end of the floor in the first quarter against Washington, certainly, and in Atlanta. I think our attention to detail, our being up at the point and on-ball screens and off-ball screening actions, and we just had a little bit of slippage. And so making sure that we get back to the basics from that standpoint, and then continuing to preach the ball movement. Right, continuing to make sure the ball finds the right play, finds the right shot. It doesn't get stuck. We're getting to next actions. We understand what we're looking for when we create the mismatches that we want. Who to get the ball to, when, how, and where. And that's some of that's a product of new players. Some of that's a product of just watching the film and reverting back to old habits. And continuing to try to work on us and make sure we're getting better in terms of our ball movement.
And Thomas leads the league right now in assists. Can you just speak to her vision and what you've seen as the head coach with her being able to just place the ball in the right position?
Well, first and foremost, she's one of the highest IQ players I've ever been around. I mean, she understands the game. She sees things before they happen. She understands what we're looking for in each one of our actions. Sometimes she probably overpasses, particularly when she's attacking the rim. But she's just got great instincts. I mean, she's a point guard mind and instincts and a power forward body. And so for us, we utilize that. We put the ball in her hands a lot. We have her initiating offense a lot, making sure that we're playing to her strengths. Now, we're a little bit different now with Brianna Jones back on the floor in terms of how the floor is spaced for her. So as coaches, we have to do a better job of continuing to find those areas and find that space for her to operate.
Steph, she's making her Olympic debut at 32, and I think she's sort of like one of your ultimate, really has paid her dues type players to be as good as she's been, to finally be getting, if you will, that recognition internationally. How proud are you having that chance to play in the Olympics now after everything she's done in the WNBA?
Really proud of her. Certainly when you think about her journey, she's kind of always been the consummate underdog, and she's always been a player who if you look at her, you think how is she doing what she's doing, but she's also the ultimate plug and play player, because she can play so many different positions, because she's willing to do all the little things, all the dirty work on the defensive end, guard the best player, get the rebounds, initiate the break, find her open teammates, set good screens. She doesn't have to have the ball in her hands to be effective and to be successful. And when you think about international play and you think about the Olympics, you need those types of players. So certainly incredibly proud of her for staying true to the process, and then taking advantage of her opportunity when it was offered.
Coach, you've got a couple of players on your roster averaging career highs in Dejanay Carrington and Ty Harris. What have you seen this season from each one of those individuals that has impressed you most as far as their development in the league?
I think number one, the work that they put in the off season. Certainly for Ty, getting stronger, really working on. Last year was her first year of really getting rotational minutes, getting stronger, starting to study the game from a film perspective, working on getting defenders on her body, getting defenders on her hip, working on her mid-range pull-up, all of those things. And she spent a lot of time just getting stronger, and getting better in the off season. And for Nay, getting healthy, number one, and then taking advantage of the opportunity. Dejanay is one of those players this is the typical progression of players in this league. You come in, you might earn some spot minutes, you develop into a rotational player. She has been the spark off the bench. And now when you get your opportunity in the starting lineup, you take it and you don't give it up. And she's done that. She has been outstanding on the defensive end of the floor for us all season long. She's been consistent there. I think sometimes when we're asking her to do so much defensively, it's taken her focus away from offense. And I think she's finally starting to find that balance and that comfort level, over the last few games. And we're going to need her to continue to elevate on that end.
AT is the engine. She anchors you on both ends of the floor. But if it's not Thomas defensively, who is the other person or two that you look for? If Connecticut is going to have a good night on that end of the floor, who has to step up?
Well, it's got to be Dejanay, certainly, because she's always going to defend the opponent's best perimeter player. She's got to be consistent. Tiffany Mitchell has to come in and give us the same thing that Nay gives us on the defensive end of the floor. Veronica Burton has been outstanding for us, especially on the defensive end. She gives you a different look than Ty does at that position. She allows us to play them together a little bit more, to take maybe Ty's mind off of defending 94 feet and handling 94 feet to be able to be a shot maker for us. They've been excellent. And Brianna Jones is an underrated defender. I mean, she does a terrific job in the two-man. She does a great job in her positioning when she's guarding one-on-one on the block. I think she's one of the top 10 in points per chance defensively on the block. So we've all got to be elite defenders in order for us to be successful. I don't think we're that team that just steps on the floor and wins any games. We've got to be elite on the defensive end. That's what gives us a chance every single night. And we've got to continue our growth process offensively.
Megan on too. Megan, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, just want to follow up with you about Veronica Burton, and her minutes have, drastically increased over the course of the last couple of games. I know you spoke to her defense, but how has she been able to adjust to coming in late to the season and learning your system and doing the things that you want to see her do?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for her is that she's just a high IQ player. We went through, I think, day one when she came into our franchise and just went over 4 or 5 different plays, and she had them right away. Right. She studies the game. She asks questions. She's got really good instincts at that point guard position. She's a natural point guard, a facilitating point guard, and she works her tail off. She's a great teammate. So a lot of things, but mostly just getting comfortable, I think, in our offensive system, really starting to learn and understand where our looks are. We really only had 2 true practices since she's been here. But she spent extra time with AK talking about the offense, certainly understanding where we want to get the ball in. And when she got the opportunity and when she's getting the opportunity, she's taking advantage.
Brendan, go ahead.
Hi, Steph. Just back to your point about offense and being stagnant and trying to have more movement. What's the balancing act of when you have Ty bring up the ball or Alyssa Thomas bring up the ball? Like, how does that kind of factor in? Is that might be something where you have multiple initiators there, or there could be some trouble? Like, where's that balancing act?
Yeah, I don't think there's any trouble in who's initiating and how we're bringing it up down the floor. Certainly when AT gets the rebound, she's going to bring it up. Depending upon where Ty is on the floor, we'll outlet to AT or Ty. I don't like to have one person initiate offense anyway. I would love it if DB gets the ball on the rebound and or Dejanay on the rebound and they bring it up the floor, because we really want to pass it ahead and put more pressure on the defense. So I think the biggest thing is not getting tunnel vision, number one, when we're running our actions. We've got to see when defenses rotate, when they collapse, when they make changes, when they switch, when they show. Like, we've got to see those things. And we've got to continue to watch it on film. We've got to continue to process it and learn it and adjust it, because teams aren't going to play you the same way for 40 minutes. We're not going to be able to predetermine what's going to happen, throughout the course of a season. So we've got to continue to get better there. We've got to recognize mismatches better. I think that with our offensive system and our offensive flow, we get a lot of cross matching. We get a lot of mismatching when switches happen, and we've got to be able to find them and understand that when we're finding them, that person doesn't have to take the shot, right? That person has to put pressure enough on the defense to get us a rotation, to get us an open look. And then we got to make quicker decisions. We got to know what we're going to do with the ball before we get it. I think oftentimes we catch it we don't have a shot right away and then we're holding. We got to shoot it, drive it, or move it, and get back to playing 1 second basketball.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room?
A real quick one. You spoke about this team and you referred to them as underdogs and being, I guess, in some place undervalued. This team has been one of the top teams in the league for several years. Why is Connecticut not getting their flowers, if you will?
I don't know. I mean, that's I'm not really sure why that is. Could be small market. Could be, no quote unquote superstars. I mean, even though we have an Olympian, we have an MVP candidate. I don't know. But I don't know that it really matters. I think the thing for us is that mentality for us is what drives us. I mean, and I think it really is centered around the identity of Alyssa Thomas's career. She has been the consummate underdog. I think nobody's ever talking about her. She continues to put up great numbers. She continues to lead this franchise in ways, and that was before I got here. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, we started this season really well, and then we had a target on our back, and we've got to continue to play like we're the underdogs. We are continuing to chase championship caliber teams. We want to win a championship, and in order to do that, we have to chase everybody who's been there before. And so we have to keep that underdog mentality. We have to go out. We have to battle every day. We're not that team who's just going to go out and who's going to outscore people. We've got to do all the little things every day, consistently for 40 minutes.
If I may, just really quick, you've done that. You know what I mean? Like when you look at the Connecticut Sun, they have done everything that you just spoke of, but yet still not more is being discussed with regard to having the best record in the league, being a consummate professional night in and night out. And yet and still, people are still talking about other teams in the W that may not be on the same level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're talking about fans and media, sometimes we just get enamored with the numbers. We get enamored with the people who score. We get enamored with the people who get rebounds and get block shots and all of those things. And we even though we have a player who leads the league in assists, I think at one point last year maybe led the league in rebounds as well. It's not the quote unquote sexy things, right? And that's just the nature of sport. It's not new to sport, right? You see those teams all the time. But at the end of the day, for us, that stuff doesn't matter. We want to put the best team on the floor every night that we can. We're chasing a championship. We know it's not going to be easy. And we know that we have to continue our growth process and our journey. Even when we were on our win streak, we weren't playing great basketball. Right, we just weren't, and we've got to continue to our growth process, continue our journey to being the best team that we can possibly be when September and October get here.
Thanks, Coach.
Well, for underrated and undervalued, you've got 5 players averaging double figures.